In the same interview, Mr. Trump mused about a third term, saying that he wasn't joking about seeking the office again, but that it was far too early to think about it. The 22nd Amendment to the US Constitution explicitly bars anyone from being elected president more than twice.
South Korea's Constitutional Court will deliver its verdict on Friday on whether to endorse the impeachment of the president Yoon Suk-yeol. It could end months of political turmoil, which began when Mr. Yoon tried to impose martial law in December.
China has warned the Philippines over comments made about Taiwan. The Philippine military chief called for troops to prepare for action in case Taiwan was invaded. China said those who played with fire would get burned. Stock markets in Asia and Europe have fallen in reaction to Donald Trump's announcement of a universal tax of 10% on all imports to the US and higher rates for countries he accused of ripping off America. The measures prompted the price of gold to climb to a record high.
South Korea's top court has upheld the impeachment of the country's leader. It stripped Yoon Suk-yeol of his role as president over his short-lived declaration of martial law. New elections will be held in 60 days.
Stock markets in Europe and Asia have suffered heavy falls as fears grow that President Trump's sweeping new tariffs could cause a global recession. The main European markets were down around 4%. In Asia, the losses were sharper, with Hong Kong's Hang Seng index plummeting by more than 13%. US markets open in an hour's time.
South Korea's designated June the 3rd as the date for the next presidential election. The outgoing president, Yoon Suk-yeol, was removed from office last week for trying to impose martial law, an act that led to political chaos.
South Korea has rolled out emergency support for its car industry after the U.S. hit it with 25% tariffs. Seoul says it'll funnel an additional $1.5 billion into the sector, cut taxes on car purchases, and raise subsidies for electric vehicles.
Share prices worldwide have surged in response to Donald Trump's decision to suspend additional tariffs on countries other than China. A universal 10% US levy remains in place. Stock markets across Europe and Asia have registered big gains. The European Union has paused its planned retaliation against US tariffs.
The United States has exempted some electronic goods from what President Trump calls reciprocal tariffs. A low-profile announcement said the exemption would include smartphones, computers and semiconductors imported from China, sparing them from tariffs of more than 100%.
The ousted president of South Korea has denied any wrongdoing on the first day of his criminal trial relating to the short-lived imposition of martial law in December. Yoon Suk-yeol is accused of planning emergency rule with the intent of overturning South Korea's constitutional order. South Korea says it will invest almost $5 billion in its semiconductor industry, up a quarter from last year's package. The finance ministry said the sector was asking for more support because of growing uncertainty over US tariff threats.
China's Statistics Bureau says its economy grew by 5.4% in the first quarter, exceeding forecasts. But analysts expect the growth to slow in the second quarter of this year because of President Trump's hefty tariffs on Chinese goods. A top Chinese official said U.S. levies will put certain pressures on the world's second-largest economy.
South Korean police have recommended charges against 100 people, many of them teachers, over leaked questions from the ultra-competitive university entrance exam. A Japanese bus driver has been denied his entire pension because he stole fares worth only $7. He'll lose a retirement fund worth $84,000. He was sacked after the theft was caught on a dashboard camera.
Pope Francis has died at the age of 88 after months of ill health. The Vatican announced that the Pope had passed away at around 7:30 this morning. It said his entire life had been dedicated to the service of the Lord and his Church.
The funeral of Pope Francis will be held on Saturday. The Vatican said the ceremony would take place in the square in front of St. Peter's Basilica. Royalty, heads of state and Roman Catholics from around the world are expected to attend.
Shares in Tesla have risen by nearly 5% in after-hours trading in the United States. It follows remarks by its billionaire boss Elon Musk that he would scale back his work for the Trump administration from next month to concentrate more on the company.
New figures for European electric vehicle sales in the first quarter show a sharp decline for Tesla, despite overall growth in the sector. Analysts attribute this to growing unease among consumers over Elon Musk's close association with President Trump.
The US Secretary of State has again said a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine has to happen soon, or the US will pull out of the talks. Marco Rubio said America could not continue to spend time and resources on something that won't come to fruition.
South Korea's largest mobile phone provider has started replacing the SIM chips for its 23 million customers after a major data hack earlier this month. SK Telecom hasn't explained who's behind the hacking incident.
Amazon has launched internet satellites into space, marking the start of its push to rival Elon Musk's Starlink program. The 27 satellites are the first of more than 3,000 due to be sent into orbit for Project Kuiper, which aims to beam high-speed broadband across the globe.
시청해 주셔서 감사합니다. 다음 시간에 뵙겠습니다.